The second panel will be dedicated to the viewpoints of the government and of the businesses. Now a few caretaker announcements. We have an hour and 10 minutes. We are lagging behind, despite what I said in the morning. So half an hour for opening introductory interventions, 5 minutes per person. And then you will be given the opportunity to ask questions. And then you will also be able to make comments and statements. So first, let's hear the viewpoints of the Minister for Education and Science, Mr. Vulchev. He said only some welcoming greetings in the morning, and he promised that his important statement will be delivered in the afternoon. Thank you. The expectations for the system of education and science will be on the rise, including the criticism, because the educational system is charged with so many expectations to educate a good workforce, to educate children in European values, to make them good people. We have the negative demographic trends, and the people that will come, that will join, that will leave the workforce will be much more than those that will enter it. And the system of education will be charged with this issue as well. Thirdly, we have a dynamic future ahead of us, and it happens as we analyze it. And by the time we are ready to change it, it will be already different. So this makes the adjustment of our educational system even harder. What should we do? We should do anything possible to include every single child as early as the kindergarten in the educational system, because there are vulnerable groups that are not included in the educational system. Unfortunately, the number of children from risk groups has increased in number. They used to be less than 10, and now they are over 20, maybe 25%. Those that are the greatest challenge, and they are the greatest challenge to the educational system. And then we have a lot of deficits and impossibility of the educational system to include these children effectively in its ranks. There are cultural challenges as well that further hinder the acquiring of skills and competencies to then be further developed into professional competencies, so that we should make sure that the dropouts should be minimum and those that have educational deficits should also be minimum. And this can be achieved by with focused work and focused efforts of the educational facilities. And as far as vocational educational and training goes, we should do several things. We should increase the enrollment administratively with small steps, but this will be a policy of the Ministry of Education to increase the enrollment in VETs. On the other hand, what we should do is to encourage VETs and those schools that teach classes in certain professions to increase the number of students that are enrolled in these lines of business that will have the highest deficit. We are working on the legislation to do so. So where we have the greatest shortage, we will provide more funds. Apart from that, we should increase the scholarship size of professional classes, and the most difficult part will be to meet the demands of the students and parents, because the system of higher education has become so widespread in Bulgaria, and a lot of students and parents view vocational education and training only as an interim level, and only very few parents and students believe that they could have a decent professional life with professional education and qualification only. Nevertheless, statistics have indicated that there are a lot of sectors and companies where the positions that require technical secondary education provides higher pay than those positions that require higher education. So we should have open days policies in the schools. So in order to persuade more children that it is worthwhile considering VET. And it does not concern only those that are of lower score. Our survey that we conducted 2 days ago indicated that for many children this is seen as a not very prestigious option. Children don't believe that they will have good jobs. On the other hand, the supply and demand balance indicates that these will be positions that will see the highest increase in payment. So we should do our best to enroll more and more students by informing parents and students that this is very important. So this will be our common efforts with the business. So this is where dual-track education comes at play. I mentioned in the morning that we had a positive image. If there is a general issue of reputation of VET, but dual-track education has a very positive reputation because it has helped many countries prepare employable workforce, and we have the privilege of drawing on from the best experience, and we should use it, and we should do our best. It's not impossible, as Vice Prime Minister Donchev said in the morning. We should make the legislative amendments, and then in order to ensure the sustainability of this form of training, and then we should also allocate the funds required. It's clear that the future is very dynamic, and the educational system is unable to provide workforce that will fit the requirements of every single company. But dual-track education can help us teach the students to learn on the job, and to have the attitude of lifelong learning, and this is essential in the next decades, given the dynamic time that we live in. A lot of things should be achieved. We should make connections with the higher education system, and transfer of credits should be enabled between VET and higher education. So this is something that we are working on. Some things are achieved faster, others not so fast. We try to continuously build on, and sometimes we should exert more efforts for things to happen faster, and push the pedal to the metal. And I thank the Swiss Confederation and the German and Austrian stakeholders and of the employers. As a timekeeper, it's time for me to interrupt. So, Do you have a question? Let's have a question. Each statement end in a question, so we can think of it. Because I'm sure that everyone will shower you with questions at the end. So Minister Vulchev made a commitment. Administrative increase of the enrollment in VTs. He also raised a professional question, how this should be viewed by parents not as an interim stage. So to translate it to Buddhism, how can we feel happy as we are, the way we are, even if one is a technician? So this is something. It's a challenge for Bulgaria, given our attitude and our obsession with higher education. So, Mr. Ganchev, consultant, thank you, dear Mr. Vulchev, dear organizer. I first thank the organizers for giving us the opportunity to state our position and to express our support for dual-track education in Bulgaria. The policy of the Ministry of Economy is with a view to overcoming the shortage of staff. There is not a single meeting of the advisory boards to the Ministry of Economy at which this had not been raised as a major problem in Bulgaria by various chambers and associations. So in 2018 we should give them more hopes. And this is why we are grateful for being able to participate at this forum. The Ministry of Economy is a partner along with the Ministry of Labour and Social Policy and the Ministry of Education. I think you have discussed the results. Over 800 students are included, 32 professional VET schools, 170 companies. That's the Domino project, and it's a clear sign that the government has realized how important it is to introduce this system. No other evidence is needed. We are sharing our satisfaction that so many young people are joining priority sectors such as machine building, tourism, automobile, mechatronics, industrial manufacturing, furniture production. So this is how the results will be made sustainable, and the Ministry for the Economy has stated three clearly defined goals to focus on with the business and with other ministries. We do support the employer organizations, and we insist that the business should participate in the development of curricula for dual-track education. This is necessary so that young people could be employable after they graduate, and the skills acquired will help them find a career, pursue a career at the labor market. And it's also a clear priority that the labor code should regulate a new type of employment agreement in synchrony with the dual-track education. It's clear that many companies have been involved, but the problems have been thrown on them, because a lot of companies have expressed their concern that the government authorities have declared the employment contracts with the apprentices illegal. We made consultations with the 3 German-speaking companies where the system has proved so successful, and along with our partners, the Ministry of Economy has developed a draft employment contract for apprentices It will be subjected to the respective approval process with the employer organizations and advisory boards. So any proposals are welcome. We will discuss them further. I have it with me because health insurance contributions should be finalized. The government should pay them so that the employers should be encouraged to receive apprentices. So let me elaborate. Are you making new legislative amendments, or only those that complain have not used a good contract? No, the new type of employment relations have not special. So you're going to amend the labor code, or you will propose that? We will propose an amendment to the labor code that is in particular of Article 230. And some more time left on the third priority. We want to have a virtual register of the employers involved in dual-track education. It will be maintained by the Executive Agency for Encouragement of SMEs, with a clear message that the Ministry for Economy does support the introduction of the dual-track education system and hopes to achieve the good results of Germany, Austria and Switzerland. Okay, the business should be involved in drafting the curricula, a new type of employment agreement, any register of the employers that are involved in such programs. Now let's turn over to the employers themselves. Mr. Emmanuel Artur from Nestlé. You have the experience from Switzerland, so you will be able to make comparisons.
Yes, good afternoon. First of all, thank you for being here and to be able to give a testimony on behalf of Nestlé. Just to give our perspective in Bulgaria, first of all, Nestlé has been present in Bulgaria for 23 years, and we employ more than 1,000 people, 1,100. And like for all companies, we believe that people are the core of the business for sure, and that we need to be finding the right resources to be able to develop our success. This is why we've been involved very early on from 20 years ago in youth initiatives, by getting training in our company, by developing them, by working with universities, working with schools to be able to have some practical training for the young generation. In addition to that, Nestlé has launched 4 years ago on the global level a program called Nestlé Needs Youth, which is was designed at European level 3 years ago to hire 20,000 young people below the age of 30, below the age of 30. We have actually overachieved this, and in Bulgaria we also contributed to this by hiring or giving apprenticeship or training to 300 people in the course of 3 years, and we are committing to do the same for another 300 people until 2020 as apprentice or trainee in our organization in Bulgaria. So we are very committed to, because it's important for us, and it's also important, we are a socially responsible company, so we believe this is quite important to be engaging, investing ourselves in the future of this country. Now we come to a dual education part, which is the real focus of this forum and event. And I think dual education is a real answer to this issue of how we are getting more people and better people inside the organizations, inside the business, inside the companies. I see the unemployment rate in Bulgaria, and this is going down and down, and to be honest, us as Nestlé, we more struggle to find people than to look for people. So the question is not a question of unemployment, it's a question of mismatch potentially between what we find in terms of people and the qualification that people have. This is why dual education in many other countries, and you were referring to Switzerland or Germany, or we are a Swiss company, but we operate in all countries. And we know that in Western Europe, it's a very strong system that has been proven success to be able to matching better the profile of the people with the needs of the companies. So that's why, I mean, I don't want to come back. You all know, and the experts have been talking better than me on this, but this is obvious that giving practical education together with theoretical education, hand in hand, one echoing the other in the curriculum of a young person, is much stronger than just being a theory on one side and then trying to find a job afterwards. The second very strong things in the Domino project, which we joined from the beginning 3 years ago, is the fact that we've been able to design the curriculum together with the schools, and this is very important because this is making sure that this is matching our needs fully, and this is what is very strong, and this is what is better than the previous occasions we had to do before. The second point, which is important, is not about designing the curriculum from my standpoint, is about making sure that this is not about hard skills only. Human beings, us young people, don't need to learn hard skills only. This is how you integrate yourself in a business work environment, which is very different from the kids' environments, the family environment, the school environment. And this is a very smooth steps into this that dual education provides, which is not replaceable by anything else. And that, I think this is becoming a live journey, a live experience, as opposed to things which is done in steps. So this is where we see benefits for the people. We see benefits for ourselves as well, in the way that this is giving us opportunity, of course, to better select talents. We can see the people, see how they operate, and then we can hire them if they want. I mean, if we need and if they want afterwards. And so this is a better selection process than starting from scratch and from zero. So there's a lot of benefit from our standpoint in this dual education. I believe that the key question, I think the minister referred to it earlier on, is also a question of image. And I think a lot of effort should be made to make sure that this is not seen as a second-class type of development. And I think all the stakeholders should be working on this. We are, on our side, committed to promote as much as possible the value of this kind of education. It is important that we get parents on board, all the stakeholders, to make sure that this is not seen as second class, because that is what has been in most Western European countries a problem in the early beginning, that it was seen as being a second-class education. And I think it's been turned around in many countries. So this is a good challenge for Bulgaria, and we are, as I said, as Nestlé, are committed to this, because dual education at the end is a system that will be going much broader than what we are doing right now. And I believe that in the next few years it will be a very important part of our own recruitment system and training and development and CSV.
Благодаря, господин Артур. Да чуем и останалите от бизнеса. Господин Владимир Спасов.
Thank you, Mr. Artur. And now Mr. Vladimir Spasov, Executive Director of M+S Hydraulic. I would like to congratulate you that you were the first man who pronounced the name of our company in the right way. Minister, dear guests, I'm very grateful for this invitation. I don't have preliminary speech. I just want to share with you what my impressions are about dual education. M+S Hydraulic was among the first companies in Bulgaria which in 2015 launched a project in cooperation with the VET school in Kazanlak. This was a domino project. As a result, this year we saw the first graduates of the program. Students who within about 2 years acquired very good professional skills. Some of them remained and started work with us. Others joined other companies in the region, which is great. What I think businesses need as an additional guarantee or additional measures to be taken by the government. First, in Bulgaria, there is one VAT Act, but it is not comprehensive. It is not all-encompassing. In discussions with other companies, bigger or smaller, because we are rather big, we employ more than 1,000 people, but even smaller companies are interested in getting involved. They're ready to invest in dual education in order to get qualified workforce. There are good examples, I think, in the Slovak Republic, where legislation offers various incentives, tax reliefs to the businesses. Thus, because the reality is that the businesses takes on some of the costs from the state, from the government. This will attract even more companies to get involved with dual education, thus creating capable people in all areas. What is the second problem that we have been encountering? Well, a majority or a big part of the students that finish secondary education, even those included in the Domino project, once they finish school, they leave this area and continue with their education somewhere. Why I say somewhere? Well, because Bulgaria probably is the country with the highest percentage of people with higher education, approximately 80%. And I say somewhere, or they study something, because if it is a continuation of something that they have started studying in their secondary education, this is great, but unfortunately it is not so. I'm happy that Minister Vlčev, in the beginning of his address, spoke about this. It will be great if measures are taken in this direction. I think Bulgaria needs a significant reform regarding the education strategy. We under the Domino project, we are learning from the Swiss model, but in Switzerland, things are very different. Correct me if I'm wrong, but students start earlier at the 7th grade, and you can correct me, Ms. Evtimova, if I'm wrong. There is a professional orientation at this early stage. And I think this is extremely important. Why so? Well, I do not oppose higher education. Just on the contrary, I have 2 degrees. But businesses are ready to pay well to the good professionals. Businesses are ready to do their best so that people with good VAT education and the necessary professional skills receive a similar payment or even higher than the payment of people with higher education, which, however, are not that well educated. In our company, we have 1,170 people, 800 people in the production sector. 20% of them have higher education, but they have graduated from something, from somewhere. For these people, it's either themselves or the state that paid lots of money, and I say this money were wasted, not invested. This is probably one of the reasons to say in Spain that young people do not stay in Bulgaria. Well, probably that's reasonable. If they acquire qualification which is not in demand at the labor market, they will start looking for a job somewhere else. But if we create the right workforce that is needed not only by the businesses, because I don't want you to think that the education system should serve only the businesses, but no, it should serve the economy of the country. I think we need a joint analysis and survey together with the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Economy, and local businesses, and identify the needs, the demands for higher education, for vocational education in numbers and so on. Then we'll have a clear picture. I can only reconfirm the readiness of the businesses to support such ideas, for carrying out analysis and upgrading, modernizing the educational system. Yes, I'm looking at you because you took more than 5 minutes, but you more or less asked 3 questions. Will there be any incentives for the businesses involved in dual education? What should we do so that those who we train do not move forward with some completely different education? And has there been any analysis of the economic needs in Bulgaria? Now, Mr. Chulakov, the CEO of Kaolin, Minister. I would like to congratulate Mrs. Toncheva, with whom we embarked on an adventure 2 years ago, and I hope that you're all going to help us finish this adventure successfully. In the municipality of Vetovo, Kaolin is the only employer, and when I say only, it is because we are the single employer, the single job provider. In 2014, the new owner of Kaolin, the German company Quartzmerke, said that they would like to do the best for the training, and the best was dual education. At that time, we have already started hearing about dual education, so we came into contact with Mrs. Toncheva from the VT school. We signed an agreement. We followed all the procedure, and in 2015 we decided to start with our first class, and the specialty was enrichers in the mining industry. There used to be such a specialty in the past, and we decided to start this again. So it was kind of easy. The reality was that at that time we needed 5 new recruits, but we understood that for a dual education class we need at least 13 students. So with 13, then we took 13. The first school day we organized a parent teacher company meeting, and I was really sad. Half of the children came from the so-called risk groups or vulnerable groups. The students were wearing their best clothes. They were happy that they would be that they would study something at Kaolin, and they would be really useful. I shook hands with their parents, and they were really happy. from 26 students, because there was a kind of combination of two classes, all these 26 asked and wanted to enroll for dual education, and that's what is happening right now. They want to work for us, but we still need only 5 new recruits. And I want to clarify, when we talk about dual education, are we talking about one and the same thing? Because the way we understand it is dual education the German way, nothing halfway. The first group that started in 2015, next year they should become like employees of our company, paid 90% of the minimum salary for the country. 1 year from now, there will be 13 more, which means if not 13, 10, then we'll have more than we needed, because as I already said, we need only 5, which means that we are going to take upon ourselves social responsibility, which goes beyond the normal. The HR manager is here of our company, and I asked him in 2019, what are we going to do? Do we have to make people redundant in order to appoint these newly trained skills? So I say, if dual education is implemented in its strict sense, I don't know what happens with the company which is in the similar status as we. One company only one in one municipality, and everybody wants to be your student. So I said that we are in 2019, if we have 26 or more people with the specialty in enrichment of or enrichers in the mining industry, we will not need them. So we will have to somehow diversify, prepare them for electricians or other professions that are useful. But if we have to do it in the right way, then we should change the specialty every year. 1 year they study welding, the other year they study for electricians. What about girls? We are only talking about boys' jobs, but we cannot produce hairstylists, for example. The second thing is that we cannot do one and the same thing with every year. We don't have the capacity, but Mrs. Toncheva doesn't have this capacity either. We need at least a 5-year forward plan, what professions to produce, so that also we have the necessary teachers. And I mentioned teachers, and I have to say it's not possible for us to provide teachers for all these subjects and specialties. So the challenge is huge, and I'm finishing. We are taking a risk, the risk of creating a problem instead of solving a problem. If there was a differentiation, if we train 5 students, the right number that we need, we would create some social, like secondary class people and first class, some elite, but this will not be good. And I will really be very grateful to the ministry, to the experts who I believe understand my point, because by the summer of next year we should find a solution to the fact that we train more students than we need in terms of workers. Another is how we can change professions fast within one and the same VT school. And the third task is the teachers. If we are able to solve these three issues, then we'll be able to create sustainable dual education model. If we don't solve these problems, then we can't speak about sustainable model.
Important questions, and it became clear in Kazanluk you are preparing people that will be used by other companies. And Mr. Zhivkov now, the member of the board of directors of the National Association of the Timber and Furniture Industry. Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you, Minister Volchev. I thank the organizers for giving the possibility for our sector to be involved and to explain what we have achieved. Dual-track education is important because the issue of the shortage of staff is extremely important. We realized that way before the financial crisis the economic crisis started. After 2008, we calmed down somewhat, but in 2013 and 2014, this shortage became very strongly felt as well again, and for our sector it's become extremely acute. Our board of directors developed a strategy in which we placed dual-track education as our top goal, and we want to work in this area. We analyzed the problem and we focused at all levels, on all levels at which we should intervene. Strange as it may seem, we did not start at VET, we start with a primary school. We considered professional education and higher education. Our strategy was backed up by an advisory board, and we invited principals of VETs and university professors at the Timber and Forestry Institute, because they are in our area. And we, way before the Domino project started, we got involved in dual-track education. The first project, which was of a private entrepreneurship of a TED company, along with Christo Botev VET in Plovdiv. They were the first ones to introduce dual-track education. The principal, engineer Kustadinov, is the pioneer, is a champion, and he then joined the Domino project. So this very first project was successful, and we realized that this was a major factor that can change our sector. But going back to where I started, I think, as I said, we should bring children to, we should explain to children how important professional education is. We try to take part in parent-teacher assemblies. We want to open up our factories for the parents to see that we are a highly industrialized sector. It's not a dirty place, and it's quite an attractive place. We need children who speak languages, but we don't need students who have graduated from language schools, foreign language schools. We had a competition for a drawing of interior, and we invited children from all over Bulgaria to send their drawings, their pictures, and we want to show them how interesting this branch is. And we try to help the VETs, although they are in a difficult situation themselves. Until 2 years ago, they had no applicants, no candidates. These professions are not viewed as attractive by the parents and the students. They don't think they These are professions in which one manages CNC equipment. You don't bring wood chops from one place to another. Minister Vulchev will confirm that delegated budgets force all students to go to foreign language schools and to elite schools. Parents believe this is the best option. You remember that it was some time ago when there was only one language school per city, and it did attract the most elite students, but now there are so many and we are losing our potential students. We actively got involved in the Domino project. For our industry, it's definitely successful. We have students in 6 cities, 120 students. We are a leading specialty in DT, and we definitely support this approach and this form. And we thank the Domino project for all their accomplishments. You're looking at me. I'm waiting for the question. Yes, the question that needs the regulation of the government with respect to language schools and professional schools. Regulation may be a dirty word, but there comes a point when the government should intervene. And secondly, when we talk about VET and VET schools, it should be made attractive. It should be made more visible. The classes that we call wood processing, this is not a very attractive profession. How would you call it? In Yambol, for instance, it's called interior design. For furniture interior design, it's very attractive. Well, they may be furniture producers, but this is what brought so many children, so many students to this class. This may sound populist, but that's the fact of the matter. And also the infrastructure should be attractive. Children should be attracted to the schools by the good level of the infrastructure. All right. Now, a brief answer, brief response to the questions. I can remind them if you need that. So will there be incentives for those companies that are involved in dual track education? Tax benefits, insurance contributions paid by the government. The tax policy in Bulgaria gives no benefits to anyone. It's easier to have to make policies and successes using the expenditure side of the budget. Mr. Spasov is right in saying that these are the benefits for the company, but there's also the public gain. It's a question that we are discussing, how to expand dual track education and how to make it more sustainable in compliance with the legislation on the state aid. We have project financing in place now, which helps us. So you're not considering offering benefits for certain companies. Tax benefits are not discussed. We are considering covering some of their additional costs incurred through dual track education. 9 questions. What should be done in order to not force those who graduated from dual track education system to continue studying elsewhere? The higher education has become extremely massive, reaching 75%. Then this resulted in loss of value and the non-rational pursuing of a career. Children want to study anything. Psychology is a very popular specialty. So this is not rational. do you think there should be a model? For instance, if you have studied to become a furniture producer, then you can be. Have you considered tying up the student to the company for at least 5 years? Let's say, no, we are not able to interfere. We can restructure the system of higher education and link professional education with higher education. We have started we have reduced the number of students in 14,000, by 14,000, sorry. So we are restructuring the higher, the universities by professional areas. We have protected professional domains because we want to link the higher education to the future demands of the labor market. But this historically, there are two professional schools in Pravets and the technical school in Sofia. They are a good example. In both schools, over 80% of the students, graduates, continue studying the same professions in the university. So they don't leave the country, and they have a good employability. So this integration between the VET and the higher technical school is a very good option. So you are very cautious of not giving headlines for the newspapers. So you've been extremely cautious and very good at evading any comments. So analysis of the demand. How many, do we know in Bulgaria, how many furniture makers are needed? How many, I think in a 5 to 10 year horizon, this is an easy job. If there are 160,000 mechatronics and there is a 40 years of the career cycle, they need 4,000 to 5,000 newcomers. So, but beyond this, even futurologists cannot help us. The structure, the regional, the profile structure will change. But you have an assessment of within the 5 to 10 year horizon. Yes, there will be a mechanism of the so-called demanded specialties, and we will be able to identify those that will be of the greatest shortage. There will be shortage of drivers. At the beginning of next year, it'll be out, this assessment. The size of the classes. Why do these people in the city of Vetovo should train 13 mine enrichers for the mining business when they need only 5? Well, this makes me think, although we have shortage, there may be some surplus, excessive numbers at a local level. So maybe we should establish an information system. And this is the third question on teachers. Sorry. There is an information system concerning teachers because we have graduates from with a pedagogical profile. They can register and show where they register there and show their preferences. And a lot of teachers are getting retired, so there should be a way of matching these two. And enrollment, the law says that this enrollment should be by specialty, but we should consider enrollment by professional domains or professional areas. Yeah, 4 specialties in a single VET. Yes, because we can't have the magnitude the economy of scale are we be ready with it by next year? Because next year they will have another 13 graduates. When legislative these solutions are to be implemented, I'm even more cautious because you know how the legislative process goes. What should we do so that small children could know what they want to work? There was a very helpful discussion of the Council of Ministers. All countries face such a challenge, and it's very difficult to resolve it with a curricula. It's very difficult for children to acquire all competencies outside the basic ones, and almost all countries resolve that by extracurricular forms, visits to companies or technical groups of interests or technological groups of interest. So we should take children to companies. They should see that it's clean, as Mr. Zhivkov said. Can you imagine it happening during school? No, only extracurricularly. We will start doing it under project, but only small scale, and project financing. Colleagues know that we will switch to budget financing after 2011. We are considering this, but this horizon, the extracurricular activities and activities by interest. Mr. Zhivkov called it regulation, but I think he imagined that you should close down, just as simply as closing down. The regulation is the enrollment process. Every year, when we reduce enrollment in the math school and the language schools, there are a lot of people who are very active to protect their existence. So I said that we should slowly increase the number of enrollees in VETs. And last question. So are you in favor of wood processing or furniture design? How should we call this profession specialty? As I said, the most difficult part is to make parents and students recognize VET as a good option. I met a German family, and they knew that their child will be into wood processing throughout his or her life, and would be a happy person. Whereas in Bulgaria, our parents want to have all doors open for their children. They want to try out every chance, even higher education that's virtual, that's simulated, that's even if they have to go study abroad, even though they will have a better career options in Bulgaria. We should communicate effectively with the parents and to explain to them that it is worthwhile to study VET. I felt just as if I were in my weekly show in Darik Radio. Ms. Plukcheva made the sign. We can use the portable mics. Ms. Plukcheva, her personal achievement as the Bulgarian ambassador in Switzerland for Domino project, for its existence. Thank you. As Bulgaria's ambassador to Switzerland, I have been tempted to take the floor. Minister Vulchev, ladies and gentlemen, I feel happy. It's true that this project, which we managed to persuade as so important back in 2012, is now so successful, and my compliments and appreciation of Ms. Evtimova. I would like to give you an example by the existing Swiss model, and this may give some answers to the questions raised. So first, it's this DTE is the export hit for Switzerland and for the other two German-speaking countries. So these are the countries of no or almost non-existent youth unemployment under 3%. So this model cannot be achieved overnight. It can't be transferred automatically from Switzerland. And fourthly, how does it operate and gives and relieves all these concerns mentioned? There is an authority of the government at the confederation level in Switzerland, where the government is represented by the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Labor and Social Policy. I realize that they are not here today. And the parliament, the trade unions, the businesses, and the government should not be disappointed that it is the business that should have a leading role, and it's the business that should say that in the next 5 years, certain numbers of certain workers are demanded. And apart from the planning that is done on a 5-year basis, then every year this authority meets again to update the numbers based on the needs of the demands of the market. We can't formulate this for 15 to 20 years ahead, otherwise we will be in a situation defined by Mr. Chulakov, as he illustrated it, trying to change the name of the specialty or trying to find a jobs for 13 people if only 5 are needed. This is ridiculous to even consider. These programs that are these curricula are developed along with the business, and they are also flexible. If we believe that our VETs are to have at least a compulsory number of 25 people per class, this makes the model doomed to fail. Some companies may need 5. Others may need 5 too, but you can't have 25, and you can't expect that the class should be of 25 people. The model of VETs and the method of teaching should be reformed. There are so-called centers, training centers within the companies. So this is where they have this more flexible training. So some interim option may be considered. 3 days in the companies, 2 days in these training centers for general education, because they need the additional qualification as well. So flexibility is essential in Switzerland. So this is what we should focus on here too. And what the Swiss say that at the beginning they are paying only symbolic salaries, but at the end of the 3rd or 4th year, depending on the profession, they are highly qualified workers who get 1/3 of the full-timer, but they provide quality of production that will give you this hidden profit. And of course, at the beginning, the government should help with infrastructure, with equipment, or with training of instructors or trainers. This is crucial, and we should have this in mind. And it's not considered, it was not discussed yet. And getting to the reputation of dual-track education. Mr. Vilchev, you're asking questions of everyone, but nobody dares ask your question yourself. And let me be the one to do it. As a person who is deeply involved let's involve the media. Let's bring the media on board. And let's involve the media too, because it takes information, it takes involvement of our own whole society. The parents should know that this is a safe future, that it's prestigious, that it means that the child will have a job in 5 years and will receive as much money as a university graduate. So the system is permeatable. So the best can continue their studies at the technical university, but a lot of the students will continue to exercise the same profession because they know the company, they know the people, they will be highly appreciated, they will be motivated, they will receive a salary. And I'll wrap up. Yes, I took so long. So all of these are prerequisites to be in place if we want to have a good result. Better flexibility of this model of the instructors, and the business should be in the driving seat rather than the government closing down schools. So this is how the business could benefit from highly qualified staff, and this is how this will benefit the economy. Ms. Plukcheva.
Okay, I'm ready to join the public committee for taking the media on board. But the question is, are the government, the ministry, are thinking of creating such a council as the one that we have in Switzerland? Well, we can't hear without a microphone. Microphone, please.
Може би с думата актьор подчертавахте известния театрален характер.
You mentioned the word actor, maybe underlining the theatrical nature of the parliament. Well, no, we have never considered this idea, but we all stakeholders share the common understanding that we need to continue with this policy, expand dual education. There are several measures to be put in place, including legislative amendments, but we are all allies, and what is very important is information campaign. If need be, yes, we can organize such a body where we can discuss all these issues. A question now, but a question, please. Good afternoon. I want to congratulate all professionals because we are all professionals in this hall. I have a very specific question. Do you think that if we cannot afford at this stage to allocate state budget funds to support employers, and that it will be clever to learn from other countries, some of them from the European Union, and just as Mrs. Plukcheva underlined, in Switzerland, they have the so-called parity funds, while we propose in Bulgaria to have the so-called sectoral funds for training and education that will be involved in ongoing upgrading and updating of needs of supply and demand, so that the local economy is satisfied, or then have some Erasmus Plus and other financial mechanisms that can guarantee funding and can you put it in simpler words? Yes, 1.5% of the what, of the unemployment contribution, or what? Well, Mr. Guranov probably will have, the minister will have to step in now, the Minister of Finance. Well, which costs, if funded, will be more cost effective, well, the funding of which costs will be most cost effective. Well, I'm really happy from what I've heard from Minister Volchev. We all agree in all directions which costs. Well, this is a question of coordination between the stakeholders, because I think that your ministry, the Ministry of Economy, and the businesses should work together. Never mind the form, but let's have those people who do good, who pioneer dual education, feel happy through equipment or through social contributions or through some options to cover some of the payment of the instructors. And this is not, in fact, the most important issue. I don't consider it as a priority. Other things are more important, as how we enhance, so to say, the level, the reputation of VET in the society. The campaign for increasing the public awareness, for giving publicity and visibility of the achievements. In fact, in Kazanlak, under the Domino project, we have about 170 students. More than 200 companies are involved in various forms of dual education. This should be made known to the society through the media, through your radio, TV show. We should talk about it. We should not hide what these students will receive or receive, even currently, what they will receive after they finish. Show the parents that it is worthwhile thinking in this direction. It is worthwhile thinking that VET can be the source of even better or higher income. I understand that we should look for some form of incentive, but for the facilities, and we have 166 million allocated for the modernization of VET. This is under the program period Regions in Growth. Yes, only for 40% of the VET schools will be modernized and supported with additional equipment and facilities for the practical training. There will be a complete technical overhaul of these institutions, and I'm sure it will be felt and welcomed locally, and will improve the reputation of these schools as well. I'm principal of a VET school. My question to Minister Volchev: our campaign for the enrollment for the next school year has already started. Can we promise the students and the parents, those who want to train under the dual education, that they will get some additional scholarships, some additional benefits? We understood about the equipment and facility, that some funds are already allocated. But can we, together with the businesses, promise that instructors will be trained? Are there any programs for the next year? That's my question. I have a question. Well, the question about the scholarships is also we can address to the companies. Now, Mr. Vulchev, will the state offer scholarships to dual education students? Well, right now we have not allocated funds for scholarship. We, in fact, envisage some payments, some financial support for some of the technical specialties. A few years ago, the mechanism for scholarship allocation was changed. Well, we're still talking about scholarships, the businesses, Mr. Cholakov. Well, but it's us who pay the scholarships. This is the idea of dual education. It's not the ministry or the state. We do not want money to be given to us. We invested 1.7 million in our own training centers. We are also going to pay the salaries for 39 students, not 23. What we are asking is to support the VET schools so that they're more flexible, change specialties fast, and don't think about Sofia Varna Plovdiv only. Think about the municipality of Vetovo and the VET school there. Because if we do not think about such municipalities, we will see many depopulated municipalities. Because they don't stand any chances to live there. So if VET can 1 year produce mechanics, the other year electricians or something like this, if teachers can be reskilled and requalified, we'll take care of all the rest. Minister Vulchev, for the scholarships, we have allocated education fund for education. This is in our branch association of timber and furniture making. Maybe you should change the name of your association. So we offer scholarships. They come from the membership dues. We are also supporting VET schools and train teachers. One sentence. Training of instructors. Well, we'll consider this. It is no microphone. We have the good intention to continue with the project funding. Minister, ladies and gentlemen, I'm Konstantin Kostadinov, principal of the VET of Internal Design and Wood Processing in Plovdiv. My question first, and I will explain why I'm asking it. We know that the Domino project will finish in 2019, so is the Ministry of Education committed to pay scholarships 50 level for the 8th, 9th and 10th graders for the period following 2019? Why am I asking this question? First, because I'm principal of VET school for 20 years now. Before that, I was myself involved in the furniture making sector. And yes, there is a shortage of workforce. And the second reason, we do not want to see what has happened already before. We have some project, funding, the project finishes and dual education finishes. I don't want this to happen. I don't want whether the businesses are aware about the ordinance validating knowledge, skills, and social competencies. VET schools can offer such validation. Thank you. Now, can you commit Minister Vulchev that yes, there will be that you have already 50 Bulgarian leva for scholarships to be paid to all students? Didn't someone give you a hint? No, no. Well, one of the additional benefits of donor funds is that they help us in efficient way to build upon existing policies. We have numerous activities under the European Social Fund. We have integrated this into the budget framework, and we keep in mind what you have raised as a question. We do not want funding to be stopped. We also have the OP Education Science for Smart Growth. So one more request. I just insist, because all questions were addressed to Minister Vulchev, but I want to ask the representative of the Ministry of Economy. We work well with the Ministry of Education, we work well with the Ministry of Labor and Social Affairs, but you as a Ministry of Economy, can you commit to organize the information campaign in such a way that it reaches all the companies? Because you are the one that the entity that works with all branches, with all companies. You can organize such a campaign that everyone, parents, students, the whole society sees what are the new technologies in the businesses, in, for example, furniture making enterprise and so on. Is there a dispute well, there will be a dispute between the two ministries who will pay for the information campaign? I know that the Ministry of Education is doing its best, but I think that the Ministry of Economy should be more involved. Well, but we don't have the minister, we have an advisor to the Minister of Economy. Will you advise the minister to commit? Well, the minister is absolutely committed to the dual education topic. As for organizing an informational campaign, yes, on a monthly basis we organize information campaigns. We'll include a module or a section dedicated to dual education. I already mentioned that our third goal is the so-called virtual register of the companies involved in dual education. And we will, it will be the agency for promoting SMEs that will participate. We can use it as also for the information campaigns. And allow me now to congratulate our colleagues for the successful implementation of the Domino project. I have a very close connection with the Bulgarian and Swiss Trade Chamber. Nikolai Ionov is also here. And I would like to I hope that Ms. Plukcheva will also excuse me that I didn't mention her initially, but we are very much committed. And once again, the effect of such a pilot project is quite visible. I have written down notes, and thank you very much for your attention. Thank you, Mr. Ganchev. I have only one question to conclude for my non-dual classical education. I was looking for a Latin expression with duo, but there is one. when two people do one and the same thing, it is not one and the same anymore. And now the big question is whether the state and the businesses who will do one and the same thing will really do one and the same thing.